This is Trend Following Radio, where great thinking comes alive. Nobel Prize winners, legendary traders, best-selling authors, and the pros that know what drive us irrational human beings. I am your host, Michael Covel. Not filtered, raw, honest. That's my passion. What's real and what's not real. What motivates me, what drives me, and what distracts me, what annoys me. You probably feel the same these days. Now that we are all plugged into the matrix, and I think we can finally admit that we are now all plugged into the matrix. We are being fed something when we turn on any source at any time. You're being fed something right now. You're being fed right now the Michael Covel view for the moment about information. Well, I think I'd rather call information noise. Because information doesn't tell you anything. It's just noise. Let me give a quick story. I was in a bar recently. I'm not in bars very often. I don't drink that much these days. I never really did, but I don't really drink much at all now. But I was in this bar, nursing a beer, and there's a band in there. Kind of a live bar. I don't know how to describe it exactly, but I'm in Saigon. I'm in Asia. The bar is kind of cool, loud, noisy, not that many people in there. A band that can play anything, a Filipino band. I asked them to play either Highway to Hell or Dirty Deeds by AC/DC. Both sung at the time when Bon Scott was the lead singer. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can go Google Bon Scott and you can see the difference between the two AC/DC singers over the years. Bon Scott was the one that started the band and died some type of either alcohol or drug overdose. But I asked this band to sing one of these songs. They chose Highway to Hell. The lead singer was female. And she just belted it out. I mean, was severely into it. The band was into it. And it's one of those moments where you just stop and you're like, wow, something real. This band, fully engaged, interpreting this song, she belting it out, and you just feel good. You're like, wow, that felt good. I'm a huge AC/DC fan. I loved Bon Scott's voice, and she did it justice. Now, of course, within hours, go to sleep, wake up. I'm right back to the grind again. The grind of trying to avoid every experience that's not real. What's not real? Information these days is basically not real. It's just noise. It's something coming at us nonstop. So I can have that nice experience. I can appreciate something real with that woman belting out Bon Scott to the best of her ability and going, damn, that was cool. But after that, we're right back to the outrage. The outrage over information, the nonstop outrage over information. What is all this information doing for us, though? It's not real. It's not enjoyable. I mean, it was fun to watch her sing. Made me feel good, right? That's a great feeling. That's awesome to watch somebody with the vocal powers, the skill. But back in the real world, where most of us are 24/7, we're watching people with no skill attempt to give us something all day long. And what are they giving us? Are they giving us fun, excitement, useful information? No. Are they giving us education? No. They're giving us outrage. They're giving us one side. They're giving us a script. It's definitely a noise bottleneck. We've reached the point, and we reached it quite a long time ago. It's only accelerating now. But information is harmful. I'm not even sure it's a matter of more information being harmful. Information is harmful unless you know how to choose. If you don't have a rule book, if you don't have a guide, if you don't have an understanding of how to use information, the right information, you'll spend all day long bombarded with information. My thoughts today are inspired from a passage at the Farnham Street blog. And today I'm going to quote from two passages, one where they cite Nassim Taleb's Anti-Fragile, and another blog post from Shane Parrish. They make great points, and they both resonate so close to home with me and how I see the world every day, and perhaps how you do. Quoting from the Farnham Street blog, when consuming information, we strive for more signal and less noise. The problem is a cognitive illusion. We feel like the more information we consume, the more signal we receive. Now let's quickly turn that to something like investing, trading. Most people I know are fully engaged all day long. Most people I know that are into investing and trading, and when I say most people I know, I'm not necessarily talking about some of the superstar traders. They have their way, and I think I've done a very good job of explaining what that way is. But most people today in 2018 are glued to social media and glued to news. And all day long, they spend their time taking it in, attempting to respond to it, say something clever to it, add to it. They do it every day. Sometimes I'm guilty of it myself. My process is really simple, though. If I see something that's an outright falsehood or an outright misrepresentation, I'll point it out. I point it out and let it go. I don't really dwell on it. But I don't stay glued to knowing what the financial commentators, for example, are saying 24/7. I don't know what information they are putting out. I know it's all noise. I reached that point a long time ago. I don't need to pay attention to know it's noise. But I'm amazed. The older I get, nothing changes. In fact, what's really frightening to me is the people that are my age that have been through this process for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. They seem to be right there with teenagers. They can't stop either. They can't turn it off. As I've said recently, I've spent approximately 85% of my last 5 years outside of the United States of America. A fantastic choice. And I'll tell you why, kind of a side note here before I dive into these two blog pieces. And I did not plan this. When you're in another country where you don't speak the language, guess what goes down? The noise. You don't understand. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a ton of English spoken, but not more than the native language. So I'm able to turn off so much. That wasn't planned. I absolutely did not know that would turn out to be a life benefit for me. That probably allows me to sleep better. I think I'm able to concentrate in a more effective manner. I don't get very riled up about anything anymore. Now, when I'm back in the States and you hear the cacophony, you hear the voices, I really start to think, my gosh, everyone's become neurotic. What's happened? This isn't normal. We are, as I say at the top of this episode, connected to the matrix. We're not free. Pulling from this Farnham Street blog and quoting Nassim Taleb, he speaks to the supply of information that we are exposed to right now under modernity is transforming us from nice, normal folks to neurotics. Literal neurotics. We don't even see it. We think the information is useful. It's like one big great game of Trivial Pursuit, right? We want to know more trivia and we want to be able to respond. And if we have more information in the investing and trading space, we therefore will be able to make better decisions, better buy decisions, better sell decisions. We will know how to bet more of our capital based on the amount of information we consume from Yahoo Finance, CNBC, and Bloomberg. What the hell? How did we fall off the ship there? Like we fell overboard, completely lost. You doubt me for a second? I won't tell you to go read one of my books. I won't be so self-serving on this episode. But here's an exercise if you've not yet done it. Go pick up Jack Schwager's first Market Wizards book. Go read 5 or 6 of the chapters. Definitely read a chapter on Ed Seykota. Definitely read a chapter on Bruce Kovner. Definitely read a chapter on Larry Hite. Now take what you see there, that clear thinking, and think about today. They're not neurotic. Why are we neurotic? We being all of us in modern times connected to social media. This has happened in literally one generation. It's not slowing down. Look at the current generation dealing with the cryptocurrency boom. I can flip on Facebook and I can see so many people excited. And they should be if they got in early. They've made a lot of money. But what does all the information have to do with any of it? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. The information doesn't help you to make consistent buy, sell, and bet sizing decisions. To quote Taleb again, in science, noise is a generalization beyond the actual sound to describe random information that is totally useless for any purpose and that you need to clean up to make sense of what you're listening to. Which literally means, this is my view, literally means in today's world, you do not need to listen to any major news for the rest of your life. Look, I'm not saying I'm perfect, but we don't need it. It's not helping us. I mean, the point here is to have a better life. The point is to make better decisions. The point is to try and live a longer life too. And to keep ourselves in a constant state of anxiety over, do we have the next nugget of information? Quoting Taleb again, in business and economic decision-making, data causes severe side effects. Data is now plentiful thanks to connectivity, and the share of spuriousness in the data increases as one gets more immersed into it. A not well-discussed property of data, it is toxic in large quantities, even in moderate quantities. And I know he ultimately takes that to the physical well-being. So not only is it not useful, it's terrible for us. But what do you do when you have the news of the moment, the outrage of the moment, the latest, whatever it might be, where people are screaming and yelling, the preening, the virtue signaling? It comes fast and furious today. Blink, and it's right back at you with something new. We're not even taking the time anymore to think who's behind the noise and for what purpose. Most of the noise, the clickbait, so to speak, or the cable news shows, this is all ad dollars. The script to keep you riveted in attention, that script is written primarily to make you watch. Actually, not primarily. It's only written to make you watch. We've moved long past the notion that information is useful in the sense that maybe it's a fact. Information today is scripted to push you in a certain way. So not only are we trying to take in all of this information, we are failing to take into account that it's scripted, pre-programmed. It's propaganda for someone's purpose, for someone's profit purpose. That's how insidious it's become. You tell me right now where you can flip on any piece of news and not spot the angle, not spot the partisanship. It's there. Every last piece of it. And almost every piece of it that I see today can be stated in two ways, at least two ways. But the way that it's presented is always presented as the only way. Information, misinformation. Taleb does go into the biological element here. Too much stress, as he would say, it exceeds the threshold of anti-fragility. We don't want to be thinking about these things as we go to sleep. We want to go to sleep. We want to be restful. We want to wake up the next day and progress. But if we're participating in this noise merry-go-round, how do we get anything big done? How do we write a book? How do we make a record? How do we produce a film? How do we run a business? Ultimately, the highest achievers, perhaps not by their particular design, perhaps just because of their particular passion, the highest achievers, by definition, have to tune the noise out because they're busy doing other shit. They're not busy participating in noise. Taleb points out the psychological too, because we can't understand all of this. So what do? We overreact emotionally to the noise. The emotional overreaction. That's all I see today. What am I supposed to do with that? You are on TV, you are on social media, and you are crying, screaming about something. Has nothing to do with me. I live 10,000 miles away from you. I'm never going to meet you. Let's be perfectly honest. I don't care. But too many people are pretending to care, and that's affecting them in a negative way. I'm not really sure when the switch flipped that the crazy emotional voice that's always been there in society, but we always kind of ignored it. We didn't pay much attention to it. The crazy aunt or the crazy uncle got to be in the corner of the room and get drunk and talk about crazy shit that happened when they were a kid. But now that crazy uncle and that crazy aunt, they're leading the nightly news. They're the major guest on the major cable TV show. They're the one pushing the noise. And us somewhat sane people are listening, giving them a voice, paying attention. Not healthy. Not healthy at all. Not only not healthy for the physical, not healthy when you're trying to, as I have been saying throughout this monologue, not healthy to be productive, big picture productive, life productive, achieving a goal productive. We could talk for hours about distraction. And ultimately, that's what all of this is, a distraction. I'm no saint. I'm not perfect. In this distraction world that I'm talking about, this noise overload world, I succumb to it sometimes. But I know that it's attacking me. I know that it's a war. I know that it's a battle. I know that everything that I see on any news program is an actor looking into a TV camera, looking into a monitor with an earpiece, with a team talking to them. I know that. I always think about that. But I don't think enough of us think about that. Enough of us don't think about how the noise is being created, for what purpose, who's doing it, and ultimately, how do you get off and be productive? How do you walk away? After some of these Taleb quotes, Farnham Street concludes the passage with, "The noise bottleneck is really a paradox. We think the more information we consume, the more signal we'll consume. Only the mind doesn't work like that. When the volume of information increases, our ability to comprehend the relevant from the irrelevant becomes compromised. We place too much emphasis on irrelevant data and lose sight of what's really important." A nice, succinct way of saying what I've been saying. There was a second blog post associated with this first one that I really liked because it gave a practical perspective for dealing with the problem that I described, this noise overload. Shane Parrish makes the point. If you're looking for a quick heuristic you can use for information you're putting into your library, try the two-pronged approach of A, time, B, detail. He describes time, meaning how relevant is this historically? How long will it be accurate? What will it look like in 10 minutes, 10 months, 10 years? If it's going to change soon, you can probably filter it out right here. Who talks like that when it comes to consuming news and information today? Very few people do. You have to go find the voices like myself or sharing other voices like Nassim Taleb. You have to go find the voices that are actually saying, hey, you're in the middle of a really weird, controlled environment, the Matrix, and here's how you have to break out of it to see more clearly. He talks about that two-pronged approach, though, A being time, B being detail. And he says one way to determine if the information will stand the test of time is by gauging its accuracy, by examining the details. They're the small but powerful vitamins of your reading diet. I will give a great example in my trend-following world, criticism. I love critics. Critics always tell me I'm on the right path. You know why? Because they never give details. It's always, Covel is the devil, this book is shit. Now, they don't say it exactly like that. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they do say it exactly like that. But I'm condensing to the essential elements of a good criticism of my work. Covel is the devil, his work is shit. That's a good, solid criticism. Notice what's missing? Any details. Any details. Now, here's what's really sad. A lot of people don't even know how to look at that particular type of criticism. And you could see this across the spectrum of other people, services, players, whatever. I'm not just trying to tout me. But too many people are excited by or motivated by or influenced by, persuaded by simple, crazy talk like that. The details, the comparison, my newest trend following edition, for example, is 220,000 words. Okay, you can say maybe it's too much, you don't like it, the writing's bad, all that kind of stuff. But there's a hell of a lot of detail there. And if you want to counter it, you have to respond in kind. We're big kids here. This is the big boy table, okay? So if you want to play ball, then step up and play ball. Put your chips on the table and let's compare notes. Let's get away from the daily outrage. Let's get away from trying to have a quick, snarky comment for something that happens all day long during the S&P trade session. There is nothing we can say all day long about the S&P trade session, unless perhaps it's another October 1987 Black Monday. Then that would be really fun to talk about. But that doesn't happen. But once in a blue moon. So why the hell are we worried about that? So again, what are the details? Now remember, this is the quick heuristic from Shane Parrish. He's saying time and detail. How long will this information stand the test of time? And what's the level of detail? Now, I think instinctively, people that have trained themselves, smart people, they know how to do this instinctively. They don't need a rule book. But look, for a lot of young people today that are growing up in the age of social media, you really do have to break this apart. I still, in my mind, I have pre-internet and post-internet, but I'm starting to forget pre-internet. But I know it was there. I did live it at one point in time. I still remember AOL discs. But that is becoming a mighty long time ago for all of us. And this passage from Shane Parrish really knocks straight in the gut what I'm really trying to get at, which is you want to learn from people with a deep, accurate fluency in their area of expertise. The best filter is an intelligent human brain. Find someone who has considerately prepared, processed, and neatly presented a palatable meal of thought. Think Michelin over McDonald's. Did you know there's more Michelin-rated star restaurants in Japan than any other country? I find that fascinating. But I don't find it fascinating when I go there and eat at them, which I've had the good fortune to be at a few different Michelin star restaurants in Tokyo. Do you know what you see when you eat dinner for $300 or $600? And I'm not trying to tout that as some wonderful thing. I'm just saying, hey, it's an experience I had. But you know what you see when you go through that experience? You see a level of detail and commitment and passion. And right back to the top of this episode, that young Filipino singer belting out her rendition of Highway to Hell by AC/DC, imitating Bon Scott the best that she could. It takes me right to the Michelin star restaurants in Japan. Detail. Absolute detail. Attention to detail. Passion. Beauty. The things that are important. The things that are enduring. That experience of sitting there at a fine restaurant in Tokyo, watching somebody who might have spent 10 years of their life just to learn how to make the sushi rice. Think about that. 10 years of their life, perhaps, to learn how to make the sushi rice. That's the stuff that's important. I think we would all do much better in our lives that when we are surveying the landscape, we look for the real. We look for the people that have put the time in. We look for the nitty-gritty. We look for something we can sink our teeth into. And when we see an imposter, a fraud, a fake, somebody who's just dealing from the bottom of the deck to sneakily sell you advertising, don't give it to them. Walk away. Walk away. Everyone knows I have an emphasis on this show with my foundation, an investing foundation. If you decided right now to walk away from the daily information flow that occurs across all financial channels, and I'm including the likes of Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, if you just walked away and said, you know what, I don't need it anymore. I've got a better way for handling all this information. You don't need it. That's the better way. But use a simple heuristic for making decisions. And keep yourself in that focused place where you keep imagining, I've only got one life. I want to leave something big. I want to leave a mark. I want to do something cool. That's so much more fun. If we ever sit down to share a beer, share a drink, share a meal, the last thing I want to talk about is some bullshit that took place on some social media channel on some particular day. That stuff is insidious nonsense designed to break us. Now, I might want to have the conversation that I'm having with you right now. I love getting into the psychological, the self-examination. That can be really educational. We can all learn from that. But the daily stuff, no. Every time I turn it on, when I see the noise, and you should do this from now on, look at the noise and think about who is engineering it and for what purpose. And if you honestly look at who is engineering the noise and for what purpose, it changes your perspective immediately. I see a time when those awake will understand how to make money in up, down, and surprise markets. Whether new trader or experienced, college student or financial advisor, protecting against a crash or just trying to make a lot of money, trend following offers everyone an answer in uncertain times. To get started immediately, send me an email, michael@covel.com. I will send you the right trend following steps to take along with my free video. But if you want to buy and hold, trust the government and trust Wall Street, this is absolutely not for you.